Something happened inside Pastor Lovy Elias's inner circle that left his entire family in tears, and for the first time, the truth is no longer being whispered behind closed doors. A revelation that was never meant to reach the public has finally surfaced, sending shockwaves through his followers and leaving even his closest supporters stunned. What was confirmed wasn't just personal. It reshaped everything people thought they knew about his ministry, his calling, and the battles he has been fighting in silence. And the way his family reacted said more than any official statement ever could. If you've followed Pastor Lovy for even a short amount of time, you already know that his journey has never been ordinary. But what unfolded recently goes far beyond a simple family moment or a burst of emotion. This revelation, now confirmed, has shaken the foundation of his household and left thousands of people asking the same question. What truth could bring such a strong, spiritually grounded family to tears all at once? Before the tears, before the confirmation, and long before the outside world sensed something shifting behind the scenes, there were early signs. Small moments that at the time seemed easy to overlook, but now make perfect sense when viewed in hindsight. People close to the ministry began noticing subtle changes in how Pastor Lovy carried himself. The calm authority he usually displayed started showing faint cracks. Not dramatic ones, just slight pauses during sermons, unexpected moments of reflection, a heaviness hiding behind his smile. Only the truly observant noticed it, but once they did, it became impossible to ignore. Even his family, usually steady and united, appeared to be orbiting him more closely. They stood nearer during events, watched him with a deeper sense of awareness, and quietly guided him away from overwhelming crowds. It was clear something had shifted, though no one dared to ask what was really happening. Instead, they simply stayed close, as if bracing themselves for something they couldn't yet identify. Behind closed doors, those subtle shifts became more pronounced. Family prayers stretched late into the night. Private conversations became longer, heavier, more urgent. The home stayed lit far past the usual hour, as though the family was wrestling with something bigger than themselves. Even insiders who had been with the ministry for years sensed a quiet storm forming. Something was building. Something no one outside their private circle could fully grasp. That tension finally reached its breaking point on a day that began like any other. According to those close to the situation, Pastor Lovy had been carving out more time for deep reflection. Not just his normal prayer routine, this was different. It was heavier, quieter, almost urgent. His team initially assumed it was part of his spiritual discipline, but this time, the solitude felt personal. It felt like preparation, though no one knew for what. During one of these quiet moments, something happened. Something that would later be confirmed and become the reason behind his family's emotional collapse. Rumors online have suggested different possibilities. Some say it was a deeply personal health discovery. Others believe it was a family-related truth involving lineage or a DNA confirmation, while others whisper about a painful betrayal inside the inner circle. None of these versions have been officially verified, but what insiders agree on is this: whatever he learned shook him in a way that left no room for doubt. Witnesses say the shift in his expression was immediate. The calm confidence he was known for faded into something else: shock, disbelief, and a quiet kind of heartbreak. He retreated into a private room and closed the door. Minutes passed. Then nearly an hour. His family waited outside, exchanging anxious glances. This wasn't the peaceful solitude they were used to seeing. This was the kind of silence a person enters when they need to gather the strength to face the unthinkable. When he finally emerged, the look on his face was enough to tell the family that whatever truth he had uncovered was irreversible. His voice sounded steady for a moment, but his eyes betrayed the weight he carried. As he gathered his family around him, his hands trembled ever so slightly. And when he finally shared the truth, whatever version of the rumor it aligned with, the reaction was immediate. Tears. Shock. A deep emotional unraveling that came from a truth too heavy to process in one breath. But the emotional storm didn't end there. What happened next is what pushed the family from shock to full emotional collapse. Because shortly after the first revelation, a second confirmation arrived, one that didn't just validate the initial truth but expanded it in ways no one was prepared for. Some say it was a follow-up call, others say it was a message, and a few say it was documentation. What matters is that it carried the kind of weight a person feels before a word is even spoken. Pastor Lovy stepped aside to receive it. This time, instead of disappearing behind a closed door, he froze where he stood. His shoulders dropped. His posture stiffened. And the expression on his face shifted from stunned to devastated, a look his family had never seen before. Those present say the room fell silent as he listened. Every sentence he heard seemed to hit him like a blow straight to the heart. When the call finally ended, he didn't speak. The silence that followed was thick enough to feel. His family watched him, their fear growing by the second. And then, with a voice that trembled in a way few have ever heard from him, he revealed the full confirmation. One family member burst into tears instantly. Another sank into a chair, overwhelmed. The room erupted, not with noise, but with the kind of raw emotion that happens when denial is no longer possible. What makes this moment even more powerful is the reality that Pastor Lovy is known for strength. He is known for resilience, wisdom, and unshakable faith. Yet even he felt the full impact of this revelation. But instead of collapsing, he did something unexpected. He stood in the center of his family, eyes filled with tears, and told them the words that became the anchor of the entire ordeal: "We will face this together." Even with those words, the emotional weight didn't fade. In the days that followed, people around him began to sense something was wrong. His staff noticed the quiet heaviness in his voice. His closest friends saw the pauses in his conversations. Even at his next public appearance, watchers said the atmosphere felt different, not weakened, but deeper, heavier, as though he was carrying something profound behind his usual composure. His preaching took on a new intensity. Not the fiery intensity he is known for, but a quieter, more reflective kind, like a man speaking from the middle of a valley, not the top of a mountain. He paused more. His voice cracked slightly when he spoke about family, unity, or spiritual warfare. And the congregation felt it instantly. Some said they sensed an invisible weight the moment he stepped on stage. Others felt compelled to pray without even knowing why. Support messages from the community began pouring in, even though no one had told the public anything. It was as if the spiritual world had whispered to the masses that something in the Elias household needed covering. And while the family deeply appreciated the support, the messages revealed something else: the situation was no longer private. The realization hit the family even harder when a message arrived from someone outside their circle. Someone who shouldn't have known anything. The person didn't know specifics, but they knew enough to offer gentle condolences. And that was the moment the family understood: whatever truth they were dealing with was beginning to ripple outward. That forced another family meeting. This time, the tears were gone, but the exhaustion remained. They sat together, wrestling with the hardest question of all: should we tell the public, or should we keep this contained? Every option carried risks. Silence could spark even more rumors. Transparency could create misunderstanding. And remaining private could become impossible once the truth reached the wrong person. In the midst of the tension, a respected spiritual mentor reached out with a message that shifted the emotional atmosphere. The mentor said, "What is revealed in private is strengthened in unity. But what is confirmed in truth will eventually shape your testimony." Those words hit especially hard. They reminded the family that this moment, painful as it was, wasn't the end. It was the shaping point. The part of the journey no sermon or live stream could ever truly capture. After a long silence, Pastor Lovy finally spoke. His voice was calm, steady, and filled with clarity. "We cannot hide from what God has confirmed," he said. "But we can choose how we walk through it." That sentence marked a turning point. Not the dramatic kind seen in headlines, but the quiet kind that happens when a family decides to face the future together. But even with newfound unity, one truth remained: the situation was not finished unfolding. The revelation that left the family in tears still carried consequences that had not yet surfaced. And the days ahead would determine how the ministry, the public, and even Pastor Lovy himself would walk through the next chapter, one shaped not by rumor, but by the truth that changed everything.